broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way Galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, Kentucky, Louisville to be specific. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of TNAM Music. Here at the New American Media, we have a new batch of nominees, some names you will remember from last year, and other names are fresh to this list. We're going to kind of go through the merits of this year's nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Joining me today is my father, Robert Engelman, or Bob, if you know him. And Dad, thanks for joining me on the show. How you doing today? All right. Well, for the people who are checking this out, maybe for the first time and not sure of where you're coming from, can you maybe talk to your musical background, if you will? I mean, this is spanning several decades at this point, and your involvement in the music industry.
Well, I started out on drums like a lot of famous people when I was about 7 or 8, and took piano lessons, and then learned guitar, and took piano in college and music theory and all that kind of thing. And started writing for, first it was Vintage Guitar, and then Guitar Digest for about 30 years until they quit publishing, and now Scope Magazine. So I've been involved in music since the early 60s.
Yeah, and when it comes to historical records and interesting stories, you are a walking wealth of information on the topic, and that's why it's always so fun to bring you in to do these yearly shows when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame decides that they're going to bring out their list of nominees, and we kind of get to discuss their catalog, a thumbs up, thumbs down, if you will. Do you think they should be in? Do you think their career's overrated, that they're not, they might have had a nice career, fine, we don't need to knock them, but they also don't all have to be Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees. So, without further ado, let's jump into the list here. Let's see who we have on this year's list. Going in order off the website, the vote.rockhall.com. I encourage you all to go out and vote. Although, do you believe how votes come out these days? That's a whole other topic for a whole other day. Okay, person number 1 is LL Cool J. Should LL Cool J be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Well, his career has been almost as illustrious as Prince. Let's face it, he's had 100 million, sold a couple 100 million. Oh no, that must be somebody else. Maybe he got an Emmy like the governor of New York for acting. No, I don't think he had any contribution to music. He just rode the rap hip-hop train and had sex with people on stage. I don't think there's in a real Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, his name wouldn't even come up. But this isn't even the Rock Hall of Fame. It should just be any person Hall of Fame. Rock and roll started in the 50s, basically 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and then it started going to music that really wasn't rock and roll. But that hasn't stopped the Hall from putting in anybody and everybody. When you get the Mamas and Papas in there that had maybe 4 albums or 5 albums that were elevator music, they weren't rock and roll in my mind, and as many people as voted for Trump in their minds either. So I would say no.
Yeah, I guess LL Cool J was, you said, having sex on stage.
And give me the name of who nominated him. I have a few words for them.
Well, I mean, LL Cool J, you were talking about sex on stage. That wasn't actually a thing that I'm forgetting. It was just a sexualized stage show, if you will, right? Like the Madonnas of the times. That's what you're referencing, right?
I guess. Well, needless to say, I was never at one of his 2 dozen shows.
Well, look, there's some songs going through here. I think, you got "Rock the Bells." You know that was kind of '85. You know, and he was at the very beginning of this whole mid '80s, late '80s into the '90s, bringing hip hop from this underground scene to something something known by the general public. I had the "Mama Said Knock You Out." Don't you call this a regular jam? I'm gonna rock this land. I'm gonna take this itty bitty world by storm, and I'm just getting warm. I love that song. I love that song immensely. The rest of his catalog, "I Need Love," I'm not into "I Need Love." "Doing It and Doing It and Doing It Well." I mean, that's not my cup of tea particularly. It was a song. It was probably a hit. "Around the Way Girl," you know, "I Need an Around the Way Girl." That's a cool song. I like that one. "Going Back to Cali," that's a fun song. That's all right. And then, like you said, he has kind of parlayed this into a television career. You know, television and other stuff. So he has a extended catalog of time in the game since '85 or around there.
Well, Ice-T was driving that train, and Cool J jumped on it.
When what? I don't know. I think a lot of people around that era came up together. I think a lot of people were advancing up the ladder and reaching down to pull people up with them. You know, it's almost like in the mid '90s with the computer boom, with the .com age. You know, just the expanse of the entire industry helped what do they say? A rising tide lifts all boats. You know, so I feel like a lot of them came up together. He's had a good career, and he's had just as good of a career after music. I mean, this is fringe. I would say no because just to me, I want it to be pure rock and roll. If it's a Rock Hall of Fame, I want it to be Rock Hall of Fame. And I'm always going to have that bias toward it. If they want to call it the Music Hall of Fame, then drop the word rock. And if you're going to keep the word rock, you might want to keep the artist's rock. So I just have a problem with that in general, and we discuss that every year.
Yep, exactly. It is not rock and roll. Hip-hop is not rock and roll. Programmed beats are not rock and roll. Rock and roll's a bass player, a drummer, and a guitar player, and build on from there. So he might deserve to be in some Hall of Fame, but not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And I would say I would put him as a fringe, just because the persona is just as valuable as the musical catalog. Which, in 1985 I was a little kid. Yeah, like that wasn't what I was into. So like it's not really my era. But Mama Said Knock You Out was my age. That was one of the first few CDs that I got.
That's the only song I remember.
Yeah, I mean that you'd remember some of these if I played them for you. But all right, so you'd go thumbs down here. I would go thumbs down as well. It's a 50-50 call, and I'm going to tend toward not accepting someone who's not in a traditional rock band. Although, like we've said before, there's a mentality of I don't give a crap that's rock and roll to the core. And I feel like a lot of hip-hop and rap artists embody the rock and roll mindset. So I think there's some overlap in that regard. But in this case, I'd give it I'd give it a fringe 50-50 call, and just because it's not something that I would define as a rock and roll career, I wouldn't put him in here. Okay.
Well, you're talking about rock and roll, and there's rock and roll bands that contributed a lot to people starting bands. They were influences.
Right.
They sold tons of records. They sold out concerts. Grand Funk Railroad, the original Grand Funk Railroad, Uriah Heep, one of the big British bands that came out. They're still highly regarded. And, they're not even nominated. They're looking for hip-hop guys. Who else haven't we, who's the record company we owe a favor to? Which hip-hop guys do they have? We'll nominate them. I think it's politically oriented.
Yeah, as a lot of
financially oriented.
As a lot
nominated.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I talked over you twice there. But as a lot of these award shows are, who did I? It was, I think it was Scott Adams. He'd grown up. He's actually an interesting character. He's the one that wrote Dilbert. I don't know if you know who he is, but he does a podcast. And, you know, when he was a cartoonist and he was working his way up into more and more newspapers and then the Dilbert TV show and all the books and stuff, he said that there was, you know, whatever the award was, I forget the name, for the top comic. You know, he thought about that a lot, and he's like, man, it'd be so great to win one. And then once he finally got one, he realized that the awards, they're pointless. They're, you know, they're popularity contests. They're not necessary because of achievement. They snub people that deserve it. They give it to people that don't because they're primarily just trying to boost ratings. So popularity makes more of a deal than worthiness. You know, and it's kind of a back to that Groucho Marx phrase. I wouldn't want to join any club that would accept someone like me as a member. You know, once you're there, you're like, yeah, I don't want to be here. I just wanted to know that I could. So,
yeah.
Anyway, all right. So that's LL Cool J. Type below if you think that he should be in. Next person, Dionne Warwick. Dionne Warwick in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Bob.
Well, she was what you call elevator music or light rock, easy listening music. I don't think she had a rock and roll song. Almost all of her material was done by Burt Bacharach and Hal David, that did all the musical scores, you know, for all the movies and TV, a lot of the TV shows and stuff like that. And they were stuff that was on in Cleveland, like WGAR, Journey into Melody, and you know, this kind of stuff that my mom listened to. And then she had a falling out with either Bacharach or David or both of them. And then she ran to Barry Gibb and had him do an album for her with you know, Bee Gees type songs. And she had a big hit with Heartbreaker. But that was the only really rock and roll song. Again, she probably deserves to be in a Hall of Fame. Does she still sponsor that psychic from California? I haven't seen those infomercial ads for a while, but that's a little off the track.
That has been a while. I totally forgot about those.
Maybe in a Soul Hall of Fame or something like that, but not a Rock Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean,
again, they've expanded the boundaries so that you know, I'm surprised the Poppy family and the Partridge family aren't nominated. You know, they were around for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it makes it tough with the way that the Rock Hall has expanded what they're letting in. What I'm trying to do as best I can is to try to set that issue on the side, and just that, you know, we can say that about anybody in here that's not a pure rock and roll band. But yeah, it really does come into play. You know, LL Cool J has had that career, but it's really not in the right genre. And if it comes down to a tiebreaker, I think that should be a thumbs down just because of the tiebreaker part. But some of the songs, Dionne Warwick, That's What Friends Are For. You know, it's a great song. It's an iconic song. Is it a rock and roll song? No.
No, it wasn't played on FM radio and underground radio.
I mean, it's a popular song. It's
playing Hendrix and Zeppelin and Grand Funk and Black Sabbath and stuff like that in the 70s. You know, that was rock and roll. Now, you know, it'd be the same if they started letting country artists into the Rock Hall of Fame. They might as well. It was logical originally when they let country artists in because they were crossover artists. They were played on rock stations. Johnny Cash, Carl Perkins, a lot of the Buddy Holly, he was kind of a crossover. But those guys were a cross between country and rock and roll. They weren't country and western. They were a new kind of country. So
yeah, and you were bringing up some bands from the 70s, 60s and 70s, but Dionne Warwick, you know, her stuff was 82, 85, you know, That's What Friends Are For. Do you know The Way to San Jose? I don't know that one. Don't Make Me Over. I Say a Little Prayer. Message to Michael. Heartbreaker. I'll Never Love This Way Again. Valley of the Dolls. You know, like, I don't I know that's what friends are for, but
a lot of that stuff came out in the 70s.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
And,
some of the some of
it
these
wasn't
don't have the
played on
dates
the
listed.
progressive stations at all.
Yeah. Well, all right. So thumbs down on Dionne Warwick.
Yep.
I would have to go ahead and agree with you there. All right. Next up, Todd Rundgren. Didn't we discuss him last year?
Yes, we did, and he should have been in a long time ago.
Refresh people on who they are, who he is, and what he's contributed. Which is he has a. It's not just performing. It's in the studio as well, right?
He's been influential since the 60s with his band Naz, which a lot of bands imitated. Todd, as far as in the studio, he and Prince are on the same level, in my opinion. He got Hall & Oates recognized and up in front of people. He did the Grand Funk American Band album, which was a platinum bestseller, with the song American Band on it. Todd and Kasim Sultan, his bass player, actually did the whole Meatloaf album.
That's an incredible album.
Almost all of the instruments. They sang the background vocals, and that's the biggest selling album in record history. So as far as, production, engineering, performing, I know Todd. He's a musical genius. A lot of his albums, he played every instrument on the album. A lot of his songs. He should have been in there years ago.
Yeah, I think we used his picture the last time he was nominated. I can't remember if that was last year or 2 years ago at this point. I honestly don't have it in front of me how often, when the nomination, how many years you have before you're, kind of cycled through. But Bang on the Drum, is that the I don't want to work, I just want to bang on the drum all day?
Yep.
Oh, that's a great song. It's so campy and it's so great. I love that one.
Well, Hello, It's Me.
I saw the light. Love is the answer. A dream goes on forever. Yep. Just one victory. Couldn't I just tell you? Can we still be friends?
And Just One Victory was a hit for the Hello People, whose album he produced, and got them from being, I believe they were a New York garage band, and got them national spotlights. I actually went to see them when they came to Cleveland.
And good stuff, I take it.
Yeah. So, he's been influential in promoting bands that became really, really big. He was influential in making them more than just an ordinary band. They had to have talent. If they had talent, he knew what to do with it.
All right, so that's a thumbs up for you there?
Yep.
All right, I think the original rock components that are necessary there, and then obviously the work in the studio. It's not just about one aspect. You can go from player to coach, and you can have just as much of, if not more, of an impact as a coach. So yeah, I'll give a thumbs up there. But you we're just talking about finding talent, and the next group who's nominated is somebody who recognized talent in my band back in the early 2000s, and we had direct communications and sending albums and demos over to Jane Weedlin. And yeah, I'll never forget that. She saw something in what we were doing, and we had several conversations about our career with our band. But this is the Go-Go's. This is the Go-Go's nominated. We Got the Beat. Our Lips Are Sealed. Turn to You. Head Over Heels. Get Up and Go. Lust to Love. Cool Jerk. The Whole World Lost Its, what is that, head? What is that? Beatnik Beach. I'm the Only One. Vacation. How Much More? What do you say about the Go-Go's?
They were a good group. I don't consider, my description of rock and roll is a bit different, but they're rock and rolled in all these hip hop and rap groups out.
Yeah, it's a mid '80s all girl rock band, and that was kind of revolutionary. Those were few and far between, right? And that goes for something kind of breaking down some barriers. Would you say?
But they didn't. They weren't headliners. They didn't sell out arenas. They didn't have that kind of following. Kind of borderline. I mean, if I relaxed the rules, maybe.
And that's where Belinda Carlisle came from, and then she left them and then had a solo career after, right?
Yeah, one solo. Yeah.
Okay, so you're borderline. That's forced to make a decision. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Well, if I were nominated, they wouldn't be on my list.
Okay, separate question though.
If it's a true Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I would say no.
But because it's the way that it is.
Yes, ahead of a lot of other people that they're nominating.
Well, this next one, okay, so a reluctant yes based on the current criteria. We'll take it as that.
Yep.
All right. Well, the next person probably has a bigger name than the Go-Go's. I don't know how many of these songs I know, but Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige.
That's soul or whatever. It is not rock and roll. If you listen to an oldie station, you're not going to hear Mary J. Blige. Oldie stations play real rock and roll. So, she had success and so forth, but I think she won a Grammy at one point. But
yeah, it says here she had a total of 16 top 40 charting singles in the United States. Among the popular songs to date are Family Affair. I believe that was just or not a cover, but a remix, or at least they sampled it, I think. Real Love. Is Real Love her biggest? I think that might be her biggest one. And then Not Gon' Cry and Be Without You. 4 Billboard Hot 100 top 10 singles as a lead artist in the U.S. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going down just fine. Be Without You, You Remind Me, Take Me As I Am. Yeah, it's been a strong career. Is it a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame worthy career? No, I don't see it. It's a very good career, but based on music, no, I don't think so. Fight me in the comment section.
If I listen to music at all on the radio, it's classic rock or oldies stations and that, and I don't know. I've never heard any of her songs, so I know who she is. I've seen her on TV, but you won't see me walking around humming one of her songs.
Well, that's a funny thing. Some of these songs you might have heard a lot more than you realize, and that's the strange part. Like, I don't know Todd Rundgren as well as you know his catalog. I wonder how many of his songs I would know off the top of my head, and things that he's worked on that I didn't realize. Oh, he did that. Oh, I know that song, but I didn't know that I knew that song. All right, well, here's one that's been around a little bit longer. What about Carole King? Carole King in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
The answer is yes, but it's more as a songwriter than it is a singer and performer. Her album Tapestry was the top-selling record for years, the album. And her and her husband at the time, Jerry Goffin, wrote songs for everybody, all the black groups. I think they worked for Don Kirshner or somebody, where they got paid per hour to write songs, to crank out songs. I think that's how they started out. I know a bunch of people did. I think they were I had a hit with, and Grand Funk had a hit with. She wrote Will You Love Me Tomorrow that the Shirelles had a hit with, and everybody's covered that. And if you look at how far-reaching the songs are that she wrote and how many people have done them over the last 50 years, yeah, she'd be in there for all-around contribution to music. Of course, she stuck her nose into politics a few times, you know, which I wasn't happy with, but most of them have.
Yeah, people that like to be in front of a microphone tend to like to be in front of a microphone. They'll play different roles with it. I know the feeling.
But yeah, I'd say yes. And again, not as a singer. She's a adequate singer, but it's all her own material. She worked with James Taylor a lot. She worked with tons of people. She had a special one time where she did all the songs that she wrote for other people. You know, it was just crazy.
I got here. I have some songs. It's Too Late off Tapestry. I Feel the Earth Move.
Yeah, those were hits for her.
You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman. Will You Love Me Tomorrow? You've Got a Friend. You've Got a Friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was a big hit. That's what I'm saying. She wrote a lot of big hits.
The Locomotion, as you said.
Yeah.
Up on the Roof. Jazz Man.
Up on the Roof. The Drifters had a big hit with that back in the 60s. And James Taylor covered it. I mean, you know, these songs have been covered by everybody.
The animated television series The Simpsons introduced the tune Jazz Man to a new generation when Lisa Simpson...
Yeah.
Oh, no, pop-up ad. When Lisa Simpson played Jazz Man following the death of the character of jazz musician Bleeding Gums Murphy. Also, Beautiful, One Fine Day, Where You Lead, I Will Follow, So Far Away.
Yeah, One Fine Day was a big hit for the Chiffons, and go ahead.
No, I wasn't saying anything. It was a hit for the Chiffons, you said?
Yeah, in the 60s.
All right, so you give her a thumbs up?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm going to put her in, too. That's quite a resume. You know, and she... Some of that flower power music from the 60s, some of it it doesn't scream rock and roll. Obviously, you know, the Forrest Gump soundtrack and Creedence Clearwater, there's plenty of rock and roll in the 60s, but a lot of it was the hippie stuff. You know, there's something with a guitar and a vocal that is very rock and roll, but then there's also something that's very... it's not. It's almost the opposite of rock and roll. But yeah, I mean that resume speaks for itself. I think that's a no-brainer. Moving on to the next group. I'm not familiar with this one as well. They're called Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, so that's the Foo Fighters. What say you about this band?
Our buddy Dave Grohl from Warren, Ohio.
Now, when was he in Warren, Ohio? Do we know what years?
Oh, he was born there. They got some kind of plaque up, I guess.
Hey, that's cool. A lot of great musicians came from Ohio. A lot of amazing musicians and weird ones.
Bob Hope, Halle Berry.
Well, I don't think they're musicians, though. Let's think like... nice try. Marilyn Manson, he's in trouble now.
Martin Mull, Father Guido Sarducci.
Yeah, I'm going to need musicians, though. Keep naming everybody from Ohio that's not a musician. Orville and Wendell. Okay. Well, Orville and Wendell, they're talking about flying objects, and Foo Fighters refers to aircraft. Yeah, UFOs and aircraft. But what do you say about this band?
Joe Walsh lived here. He was born in Nebraska.
Oh, okay. All right. So what do you say about the Foo Fighters? What make your case to put them in or keep them out?
Well, they totally changed their sound from Nirvana's sound, but they're a rock and roll band. I mean, you can't argue that. They've been around for a long time. They still sell. I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say hands down, it's one of the easiest choices I've ever seen.
Yeah.
When you think rock and roll, you damn well better think of Dave Grohl. Period. If you haven't seen that clip of that footage when he goes off the stage, I forget what country he's in. He's performing. He's doing what he's doing, and he takes a tumble off the stage. He breaks his leg. I don't know if it was compound or not. I can't recall, but he broke his leg, and he broke it good. And they stopped the show. They brought him back. I don't remember if it was 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, hour 15, hour and a half, 2 hours, something. For a certain amount of time, the show was shut down. They gave him some painkillers. He came out. He was in either a wheelchair or a brace or a combination. I forget exactly. And man, he finished that show with a broken leg.
If he had done it in being strung up in an Iron Maiden, it would have made headlines.
Actually, you know what? I'm wondering if I can find the video clip. Let me.
I saw Eddie Vedder fall off the edge of the stage.
Where was that? Oh, wait, did you see it live or you?
Playing, they're looking and they couldn't find him. He popped up about 5 minutes later.
Yeah, I mean that's just. It's just wild. Sorry, my computer's having a hard time running all these programs. They're a rock and roll band. They always have been. Yeah, if you haven't seen their live show,
what are they doing in that category in this class of nominees? They're a rock and roll band.
Okay, so it was Sweden in 2005. He breaks his leg. Yeah, I think I just broke my leg. Yeah, I'm not gonna play. It's so stupid. They'll flag the video and put a copyright strike. But yeah, some of the hit songs. Anyway, check it out. I'm not gonna play it right now. I should. Anyway, just go on and type it. He breaks his leg. He comes back. He finishes. Their hit songs: Everlong, Best of You, My Hero, The Pretender, Monkey Wrench, Big Me, Learn to Fly, All My Life, Times Like These. I mean, these are great songs. Great songs. It's some of the best rock you've heard since 1995 they've been around.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's 25 years, I guess in 2021 now. All right, so an easy thumbs up there with Dave Grohl.
Yep.
All right. Let's go on to the next one. What about Devo? I feel like Devo was on the list last year.
They weren't around that long. I mean, their big claim to fame was Mike Mothersbaugh doing, was it Pee-wee's Big Adventure? He did all the songs for that. Like the Pee-wee's Playhouse or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Pee-wee's Playhouse. Yeah.
Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah, his claim to fame was doing all the stuff for television.
I have That's Good, Girl You Want, Satisfaction, Jerkin' Back and Forth. Yeah, I don't even see Whip It on here. Why is that not the first one?
That was their only hit.
Well, that's cool, because what I was looking at didn't even mention it.
They're from Ohio.
Are they?
Yeah, Akron or Canton or somewhere.
So is Trent Reznor, right? Maynard James Keenan, Trent Reznor, Scott Weiland. All these people spent formative years in Ohio.
Yeah, Trent Reznor started out playing. He was playing he was in a band with a friend of mine. Slam Bamboo was the name of the band.
Yeah, good stuff. So Devo for their contributions. I can't remember last year if you put them in or you didn't, and you're allowed to change your mind this year. But what say you on Devo?
No.
All right, I got no reason to bring Devo in other than I mean, one
Yeah.
campy song. How is that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame worthy? If I can't name a few of your tunes, it's not a good sign. Not that I know everything about rock and roll, but I know a couple things. I think this one is the one we were split on last year. Rage Against the Machine. Rage Against the Machine, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Not in my opinion. And I've heard their stuff, but I guess they're rock and roll, but
Yep, they got their drummer, they got their bass player, they got their guitar player. I mean, there's no guessing. I mean, it's straightforward. It's Bulls on Parade, Guerrilla Radio, Take the Power Back. I love Take the Power Back. People of the Sun, Bullet in the Head, Sleep Now in the Fire, Calm Like a Bomb, Down Rodeo, Testify. I think Testify is one of their better songs. Wake Up. Wake Up's one of their best songs. Easy. I mean, there's some good songs here. Wake Up, Testify, Sleep Now in the Fire, Take the Power Back. I don't really love Bulls on Parade, Guerrilla Radio, People of the Sun. I don't know. I don't care for them as much, but some of those are some really good formative songs. And Tom Morello is one of the most innovative guitar players of the past 25 years. So I would say yes. I would put him in. I would put him in, and you say not quite.
they were never really, really big. What comes to mind is Living Color.
Well, Living Color was never big. They just had a hit song. Rage Against the Machine was on the main stage at Woodstock, crushing it. You know, as the lights were going down. Not quite the headlining act, but they were in that echelon of those couple of bands in that last 3 or 4 band block. No, they were big. They were really big. In the Matrix soundtrack.
Well, maybe for modern day rock and roll.
But you're saying just comparatively, when you think Rock and Roll Hall of Fame career, it.
Yeah, how long were they around?
Well, okay, that's actually a good point. Their last, I don't know, I don't have all their stats.
5 years?
Well, Evil Empire was 96. They were on the Godzilla album in 98. What was it? Battle of Los Angeles was their last one, right? When was that? Well, that was when I was in college. I remember getting the Battle of Los Angeles at the radio station. That must have been, I don't know, that was 97 to 01, who knows, but Bomb Track. Yeah, Bomb Track.
And I'm not talking about bands that have been around for a couple of years and get together 2 years later and then get together 3 years after that. Tom Morello's been around doing stuff, for a long time. But as far, I would say no. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you know what? I think next time we hang out,
I'm not saying they're not a good band and they're not rock and roll. They wouldn't be my pick.
At least according to what I just pulled up here on a quick search, it shows they were a band from 91 to 2000. Then they were a band from 07 to 01. And then they regrouped in 2019. So, but I'll say this, I'll tell you this, for every time you'll bring up a Cream story about Eric Clapton and, someone from this band and the Byrds and the Yardbirds and someone played bass in this band and they went on to form this other supergroup. The band that they formed by kicking I don't know how they split, actually. But the band of them without Zach De La Rocha, which, I liked some of Zach's energy, but he's such a, I don't know, what is it, socialist, Marxist, communist. He's all about, and same with Tom Morello, actually. But Tom, you hear him speaking with his guitar, which is awesome. Man, if Zach didn't get annoying and preachy and on the wrong side of history over and over, it got really old. So I was really happy to see that band continue because I loved the aggressive nature. I loved the driving beats. I loved Morello's innovation, but I was done with Zach. they brought in Chris Cornell from Soundgarden. So Audio Slave is Rage Against the Machine with a different singer. So I think if you're factoring in Rage Against the Machine on their own merits, I think you have to consider in the fact that they also turned into another supergroup of Audio Slave that knocked out some amazing songs and pulled more out of Chris Cornell, thank God, while we had him on Earth.
Well, you can't compare them to Cream, which were one of the first power trios, along with Jimi Hendrix Experience, Grand Funk, well, Zeppelin was 3 guys and a singer, you know. But, you know, Cream was influential for that type of music back then. Then Clapton, you know, went on to do a solo thing. So, you know, I think he's in the Rock Hall for Cream and for his solo work.
Right. No, and I get that. Good question. Would Audio Slave hold up for a rock and roll Hall of Fame induction? They had like 2 or 3 albums, and they made several great songs. I don't know. I mean, they're more rock and roll than LL Cool J or Mary J. Blige. That's for damn sure. Yeah. But are they Hall of Fame worthy? I don't know. Is 2 albums enough? But when you said they're not Cream because they kind of what would you say? Cream invented the power trio, kind of.
Well, they were one of the original power trio bands, and they established the sound for that time period.
Well, but that's my point exactly. Pulling up here, trying to remember like exactly what, and there's a lot of different categories you could call Rage. You could call them nu metal, because nu metal is everything from, from Incubus, early Incubus, to Korn, Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine. I mean, it was all that really aggressive, guitar-driven, modern alternative rock. They called them rap metal, rap rock, funk metal, hard rock, nu metal, heavy metal, alternative rock. I mean, Rage Against the Machine helped define the entire sound of the 90s. So, I'm talking myself into putting Rage Against the Machine into the Rock Hall more than I think I was before. Maybe just having to quantify it and identify it. I think they were just as influential in the 90s as any of those power trios were in the 60s, 60s, 70s, like you were talking about. Rage helped define what was selling during the 90s.
You're talking about Cream. Leslie West and his brother got stoned and went to see Cream and came home and started a band called Mountain. And Eddie Kramer ended up producing Mountain. And he produced Cream. But, Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, the drummer, they went on to do other things, but not Hall of Fame worthy projects, Mm-hmm. But what was I going to say about Cream? Oh, they were
defining the sound.
It'd be Cream and then supporting acts, and they would sell out worldwide, and a lot of bands never achieved that status. Jay Giles was never a headliner. They were always on a bill with 3, 4, 5 bands, and they were a good rock and roll band. But the competition was pretty heavy, I say no, you say yes. Who's the next one?
Fela Kuti.
Who?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Fela Kuti? Felakuti? File?
I saw it on the list that you sent me earlier. I have no idea who that is.
Yeah, I would play some, except, in the process of trying to expose more people to who this is, YouTube would flag the channel and say that that's a bad thing. I say that's a good thing, but I don't get to run the internet yet. Shakara, Suffering and Smiling, Water, No Get Enemy, Sorrow, Tears and Blood, Look and Laugh, Coffin for Head of State, Teacher Don't Teach Me No something. Let's Start. I don't know. I'm not familiar.
No, me either.
A Nigerian multiple instrumentalist, band leader, composer, political activist, pioneer of Afrobeat, African music genre combining traditional Yoruba and Afro-Cuban music with funk and jazz. Well, I'll tell you what, I like funk and jazz and Afro-Cuban music, and I love that type of stuff. I feel like I want to check out this guy's catalog. I want to see what he played.
Well, in going through my mental history of rock and roll from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, I've never heard that name before.
Fair.
So, as far as I'm concerned, they're not rock and roll. And Lady Black, what the heck was Lady Black? Paul Simon's group from Africa, Lady Black Mambazo or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Paul Simon was rock and roll, but they weren't,
But doesn't Paul Simon bringing them into what he's doing make them rock and roll? Isn't rock and roll about reinventing?
Yeah, well, they were a support. They were a backup band and backup singers. I'm just saying that rock and roll is American music. It's not world music in my mind.
That's a good question, and maybe a question of the day for people that have made it this far and that they're checking this out. Do you consider rock and roll to be an exclusively American genre? I mean, the British invasion proves that's not a thing. But yeah, I mean,
but they were all influenced by the American acts that came over there. All the blues guys, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, B.B. King, the Beatles, the Stones, the Animals. They covered these songs by these black blues musicians. They idolized those guys. And they usually listened to it on, like, Sunday night. There would be a 1-hour radio program. They'd pick up on a shortwave radio or a crystal radio or something. And they loved that music. The black music the blues music came from spiritual music or whatever. But since the turn of the century, it's been American music regardless. And again, the acts from England, the British invasion, the Beatles, Did You Really Got a Hold on Me, which is a Smokey Robinson song, They did a copy of, I wanted to say Please Mr. Postman, but it was something else. They did Matchbox, which is a Carl Perkins song, rockabilly, country rock. So I would say no on that one.
All right.
It could be the best music. I wouldn't put Michael Bublé in there, not only because he's Canadian, but I don't consider him rock and roll.
First and foremost. Okay.
And I don't like that bubbly boobly water either. It tastes like shit. It tastes like the can.
I haven't tried it, but thanks for that. I'll try to not consume that. All right, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I know, because if I don't know who it is, I have a hard time. I have a hard time facing the fact that you have a Hall of Fame career if you've done it completely in the shadows. However, there's been people that have been overlooked, so I'm very curious to check out some of the blueprint of some of the resume, the bona fides, the catalog of that act. I'll check him out. I might even be saying the name wrong. I don't even know. But the next act is somebody that I definitely know. Jay-Z. Clearly not rock and roll, but arguably one of the biggest names for the past 25 years and more in music.
No, nobody I know could name a song by Jay-Z.
Yeah, but nobody I know could name a song by the Yardbirds. That doesn't mean that...
All they know is his doppelganger is a frog, and he's married to Beyonce. That's about all people that I associate with would know about Jay-Z.
All right, well, I would say this.
And if he's responsible for that halftime show, that was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life at the Super Bowl.
I don't remember it as vividly as you do for whatever reason, but I'll have to look it up now. I would say "Run This Town" is one of the coolest songs I've ever heard, and that song hits hard. It's not it's not rock in any way, but kind of. Some of these do have beats that are less hip hop and more of a rock flavor to them. "Hard Knock Life," kind of sampling some of that Annie stuff. What else? "Interlude," "Dirt Off Your Shoulders," pretty cool. 99 Problems. Actually, hey, Dad, I want you to check out 99 Problems. 99 Problems was produced by Rick Rubin, and I mean it was actually pretty damn rock. And I'll tell you another one. In 2004, Jay-Z went on stage with Linkin Park, and they did a mashup song where they both collaborated on a blend of the song "Numb" by Linkin Park and "Encore" by Jay-Z, and it's awesome. So I would recommend you check out those two. And now, once again, I'm starting to talk myself into it a little bit, because he made inroads to enter the rock and roll community as one of the biggest hip hop rap artists of the past 25 and more years. So I'm going to give him points for trying. And because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is really essentially a music hall of fame, you might not know Jay-Z songs off the top of your head, but you know his name. You know of him. You know he's a cultural icon. Love him or hate him. So I would say for me, I would put him in reluctantly, a reluctant thumbs up, because he's clearly in the rap and hip hop Hall of Fame, as he should be. He should be in the musical or musician art Hall of Fame. But I like that he's gone places with Rick Rubin and Linkin Park trying to do it. So yeah, I'll put him in, knowing that it's more of a musician Hall of Fame, a music Hall of Fame.
Well, then put Diddy in too.
Hey, you know what? He's done a lot. He's done TV shows. He's been a producer. He's been an engineer. He's been a songwriter. Diddy, I feel like that's an easy one, to be honest. But yeah, I don't like the concept of Jay-Z getting in a rock Hall of Fame.
I think Snoop Dogg, Diddy, LL Cool J, and Jay-Z.
Mary J. Blige, Madonna, and the Mamas and Papas.
Yeah, I don't even think of Elvis and Roy Orbison and the Everly Brothers and Dion and Four Seasons.
I know that's where we have to, kind of suspend our, suspended belief, putting our disbelief aside, because that's always the number one question when you're going through these. It's like, not rock and roll, not rock and roll, not rock and roll. It's like, you're not dissing them. Like they could probably be some of the best ever. You don't accidentally get nominated for something like this. At the same time, it doesn't mean that it is what it is. Just because you keep hearing something doesn't make it true. And that's very relevant news for everybody to remember today, as you're being fed so many lies through the media.
Who's the next one?
New York Dolls. New York Dolls.
No.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them.
They weren't around for that long. They were not a headliner. They jumped in on the punk craze that the Ramones started or popularized. I don't think they ever had a hit song. I don't know if they had more than 2 or 3 albums.
Well, hey, Bo Jackson had an incredible career, but he had an injury that took him out. Some of the songs by New York Dolls: Dolls, Personality Crisis, Trash, Looking for a Kiss, Subway Train, Vietnamese Baby, Frankenstein, Jet Boy, Stranded in the Jungle, Lonely Planet Boy, Bad Girl, Pills, and more. I would say no. I would say no as well. Shaka Khan. Next. Shaka Khan. I believe she was on the list last year. I'm Every Woman. Through the Fire. Ain't Nobody. Like Sugar. I Feel You. This Is My Night. Love You All My Lifetime. I Know You. I Live You. Missing You. Angel. Got to Be There, Papillon, and more.
She was like an R&B singer. I saw her with Prince last time he was in Cleveland.
Shaka Khan.
She is rock and roll. As far as female singers, other than, Pat Benatar deserves to be in there. I mean, for a 40-year career and a string of hits as long as your arm, and a ton of albums, but Shaka Khan, I would say no. Again, she wasn't a headliner. She wasn't a Tina Turner.
Who was, though?
People went to see Tina Turner. She's on the list, right?
This year?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even get to it. I don't know. Oh, yeah, she is. That's coming up. You're jumping the shark. I got something else planned before that. We'll get to Tina in a moment. But yeah, when you compare Shaka Khan to Tina, Tina, I mean, she owned the 80s. She crossed over into pop culture. She was bigger than just her catalog.
I can Tina Turner, Proud Mary. That was their song.
It's a good song.
Creedence Clearwater covered it, and and everybody else covered it. Tom Jones covered it. But I mean, she's been in the spotlight since the '60s.
Right.
And as of maybe 10 years ago, she was out there performing all the time. Mad Max Thunderdome. So I'd say yeah, and she was a headliner. People would go see Tina Turner like they go see Cher.
Okay, so you're in on Tina Turner then. You think that's an easy one?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a, knowing that it's a music Hall of Fame. She's bigger than the genre. And that's what I'm saying. Some of these people are so big they cross over, and I think that really plays into the LL Cool J argument as well. Well, when you're on a top show for 15 years, and you're on these hosting shows, and you're a spokesperson, and you've transcended your musical catalog, and I think that there's nothing more rock and roll than becoming iconic. And I think LL Cool J and Tina Turner are definitely iconic.
Tina Turner was rock and roll in the 50s.
Jeez.
And she continued on till the 90s or 2000s, and she changed her style, but she was rock and roll.
Yeah, she was born in 1939. She was active from years 1957 to 2009. Then she came out again in 2011, 2014, and 2020. She's still with us doing her thing. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, she got some health issues recently, but she's in her 70s.
I started thinking about her really this week before this list came out, and I was just saying, how has she not come back around with some sort of a project, some sort of a something? How has she not done any? Yeah, and if there's health issues, obviously, but I feel like Tina Turner had a potential, at least for a while, to really withstand the test of time. But I mean, 57 to 2009, I think she withstood just fine, to be honest. Okay, so that's that. What about Kate Bush, Running Up That Hill? Babushka, The Man with the Child in something. Wuthering Heights, Cloud Busting. Wow.
You're talking me out of it. The more you read it, the more I've got my thumb pointing down.
Army Dreamers, Moments of Pleasure, Breathing, Get Out of My House, and Dream of Sheep. Babushka, Running Up That Hill.
Nope.
Yeah, I only know that Running Up That Hill song, but it's like a remix. I don't know if that's the same. How does that song go? Do you remember?
No, I do not.
Fine, I won't press you on it.
Yeah, I don't remember any hit song by her.
Well, that's a good transition here into the last performer that we're going to discuss tonight. And thank you so much for joining us.
I know more about Reggie Bush than I do Kate Bush.
What about George Herbert Walker?
And that's too much.
That's too much. Clap, please. How about Jeb Bush? Okay, yeah, and here's another band that you know what their shirts look like. You know what their albums look like. They have transcended the genre. They've transcended their musical catalog. I don't know how many of these songs I could tell you, or I could sing, or that I recognize. But there's nothing more rock and roll than Iron Maiden. Didn't you even mention an Iron Maiden? Weren't you working that segue in? I was going off a list. I think I get where you were going with that. I didn't notice it until
I
now.
was talking about the medieval torture chamber.
Wait, but you were talking about it because you knew they were on the list.
Maybe subconsciously.
Ah, okay. Maybe you didn't know that was happening. So Iron Maiden.
Subliminally.
Yes.
Subliminally.
So.
Yeah, they're rock and roll. They're metal rock and roll, but they're rock and roll.
Yeah. Hallowed be thy name. Run to the hills. Rhyme of the ancient marine. What is that? 2 minutes to midnight. Aces high. The trooper. Wasted years. Phantom of the opera. The evil that men do. Wrathchild. Something I can't pronounce. Alexander the Great. Yeah, I just. These are cultural icons. They have transcended. I think they're in, hands down. You need more rock and roll in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know their catalog, but I respect their game. I respect that they're still doing it.
Who's their lead singer now?
You're asking the wrong guy, sir. I don't know. I mean, if we're going to talk 80s metal bands, Metallica is the hands down clear-cut winner. And it's kind of like you have people that were Metallica fans, Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield, those kind of driving guitars. Then you also had the Dave Mustaine, formerly, briefly, with Metallica for a hot minute there, going over to Megadeth. And then you have the Iron Maiden people. There's probably a few more that I'm not mentioning, but everybody kind of has their genre, their little clique of what they were into. Mine was more Metallica, so I didn't get into maybe they call this thrash. And I guess Metallica was too, same with Megadeth, but right after the Kill 'Em All album, you could start to hear the melodic influences on Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets and Justice for All. That's when Metallica really started finding themselves and hitting their peak. But yeah, I'm not familiar with Iron Maiden, but I know that they deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've been an icon in that genre forever. So thumbs up there.
Well, I do know one guy in Iron Maiden, Nico McBrain, the drummer.
Yeah?
Yeah.
From where? Where do you know that guy?
From NAM.
Ah, yes. Good old NAM. Too bad NAM was virtual this year, but check out the New American Media on the music section for the article. Where else is it at? It's on Scope Magazine?
Yeah.
Scope Mag. How do people find... because you still do album reviews and concert reviews and product reviews from time to time, maybe a little more sporadic these days, but how do people check out your stuff?
Scopemag.com. SKOPEMAG.com.
Yep, and check TheNewAmericanMedia.com as well in the music section because, we've been rebuilding and rebranding, and we're taking a bit of a diversion away from some of our regularly scheduled programming, if you will. I think we're kind of doubling and tripling down on music. So this stuff will be everywhere. We'll put this and cross post this to different platforms. But check it out, The New American Media. Subscribe, all that jazz. Check out his work on TheNewAmericanMedia.com and Scope Mag. And I guess let's do this. Let's press pause for now. But yeah, Bob and I, Dad and I, have gone to NAM conventions for, how many have we been to? 20, 25, something like that?
I've been writing for probably close to 40 years now.
Yeah, and we went to the Anaheim NAM every year for the past 15 up until this last month because they didn't have it. They had it virtual.
I'm about three-quarters of the way finished with my book.
What's it called?
It is called, tentatively, Rockstar Said What?
Rockstar Said What? When is the estimated completion date? When have you told your publisher that you're going to have it ready?
I don't know. I keep thinking of stuff they add to it.
Well, okay. Well, that's where...
It's pretty lengthy. Every time I do an interview where I'm talking to somebody and they tell me something different, then I have to add it. So it's like a never-ending puzzle.
All right. Well, as your agent, I'm going to recommend that you put a cap on it, and any new stories coming in, that goes into Rockstar Said What Part 2.
And it's an enigma wrapped in a mystery.
But when you do complete that, I'll definitely bring you back on so everybody can know where to go check that out. You're full of encyclopedic knowledge on this stuff, and a heck of a writer. And that was passed on to Chris and myself. So appreciate that. So, all right, cool. Rockstar Said What? And you're also working on a bird book? You still doing that? Your bird book?
Yeah, well, the book, all in a name or two, subtitled "Who Are These People?" That has been copywritten and ready to go to the next step with that.
All right. Well, then, I mean, that's also a similar topic, right?
Yep.
You're consistent.
And I did look up Nico McBrain's name, and that is his real name. After the first time I met him.
Yeah. What real name versus stage name? Yeah, I don't think Marilyn Manson was born Marilyn Manson. Call me crazy, but anyway.
No, he's Brian Wagner, and a bit of trivia. A friend of mine, Big Mike, who's been on Pawn Stars numerous times and Rick's Restoration, he was his bodyguard for a while.
I wonder if he's got some stories. He's getting Me Too'd pretty strong right now with a former relationship.
I haven't run into him in a while, but he buys and sells antiques.
Well,
he's down in Amish country here. He's got a shop.
Well, I've known about that. You know, Rockstar Said What? You know, the interesting stories and quotes and anecdotes from famous musicians from the past several decades, as well as What's in a Name or Two. I mean, you've been telling me these stories my whole life, so I urge you to complete these projects. You have it right in front of you. Tag it, bag it, get the artwork done, ship it, shop it, and or self-publish and ship. You know, put it out. I'll help you move them. And
just remember, you're talking about rock and roll. Gary Hoey said it's made up of 10 dudes and all their friends.
Rock and roll is made up of 10 dudes and all their friends. What did he mean by that? How did he mean that?
That's how it started. That's how it starts.
Yeah, Gary Hoey, that guy's a legend. He should deserve to be in. Oh man, he's a virtuoso on the guitar. But we could talk about legends for days. Today was just about the nominees. I'll bring you back on either when you complete a book or when they announce the people who made it in this year. Let's see which one comes first. So it's a race.
Alrighty.
It's a race. I hope I win. So.
And I hope they nominate Post Malone next year.
So my dad and I have this greeting where this is so esoteric. This is so. So if you've made it this far in the video, you got to type hashtag Post Malone in the comments. Post Malone, you have to type it. So why did we start saying Shimon to end our conversations on the telephone?
Because Jim Rome picked that up from Michael Jackson songs. And he got everybody calling in his show saying it.
How was it said in the course of his show? What would it sound like?
Well, I don't know. It came up in a topic somewhere, and then he just started repeating it.
Shimon.
Yeah.
Would he say it like Shimona? Would he always do it like with the accents?
It became like when Rush's people would say they're ditto heads.
And so
that whole thing?
Yeah, and prayers to Rush, by the way, a legend on the microphone. Talking about people that were born to speak. You know, he's got it's not looking good right now. So, but yeah, people who are born to be behind the microphone. I feel like somewhere you picked up Shimon and brought it to me, And then somewhere along the way, Shimon turned to Malone or to Post. I think just jumped from Shimon to Post Shimon. No, it jumped from, right? Did we go to Post Malone first or just right to Post Shimon?
The one you sent me a picture of Post Malone and it said Post Shimon.
Yeah, so Post Malone turned into Post Shimon, so now we end our call saying Post Shimon. It doesn't need to make sense. It just is what it is. No. Just like rock and roll. All right.
To be continued.
To be continued. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. You have a great evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right, there goes everybody. That is my father. I appreciate you for watching. Type below, what do you think? What did we get right? What did we get wrong about the nominees? Do they deserve to be there? Did we leave some off that should have been on? Do we put some on that have no business being there? What's your take on a regular, traditional, understood rock and roll acts versus, the hodgepodge of Afro-Cuban music mixed with, or Jay-Z or LL Cool J? It really is a music hall of fame. So it's just tough. It's tough to have these debates because anytime someone outside of the genre of rock comes in, it stirs up emotions. Even when we're trying to just put that aside and not think about it, we think about it. But yeah, just I think of Jay-Z making those inroads with Rick Rubin and 99 Problems. I mean, that album hit. That was a rock and roll rap project, and him working with Linkin Park. It just that was a nice crossover. Obviously, his name is as big as anyone's name out there. So anyway, type your thoughts below. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you. I love you, and we'll talk again soon. Take care. Peace.